Joe Haslam, you're a man that knows business, you're a man that knows entrepreneurship. Do you think that this new youth guarantee scheme is the way to go forward?
Well, yes, I share my doubts as well. The problem is, who needs the situation more? Is it Europe needs the young people, or the young people need Europe? I think the older people in Europe, those people who are defending vested interests, need to start thinking that the problem will very soon become their problem if they don't, the necessity for them to get the young people in the workplace is higher. I think you always have to remember that markets create jobs. Politicians and bureaucrats cannot create jobs. And the job of the politicians is to create a market. In other words, to enforce competitions, to make people be tax compliant, to rigorously allow opportunities so that small companies can become big. And it's when small companies become big that jobs are created. Schemes like this don't really help in that the jobs aren't real jobs. There's an inevitability that when the time comes to the end that the person will be let go. So I think the attitude has to be much bolder. The attitude has to take on competition. The attitude has to be that only the market can create jobs, and how do we prevent market failure and increase market conditions.
And do you think also that we're thinking too small, too European? We should be thinking more global. Do you think that is the key, really, that the leaders are only thinking about their own borders?
Yes, I mean, in the future, one of the things about immigration, and it's one of the things that we see a lot in IE Business School, in future years people will go out and seek entrepreneurs in the same way that footballers and football teams go all over the world looking for the very best people. In future we'll be going to Africa, to Asia, to try and get entrepreneurs and really top talent, to bring them back to your country and ask them to set up companies. That will happen, and Europe should be the first place to do that, because there's a real opportunity right now if the politicians would take on that opportunity. Unfortunately, they tend to think of manipulating the statistics in terms of bringing the number down rather than actually solving the problem. And it's incredible that we were talking about this 2 years ago, and when problems aren't fixed they fester, and it means you have to keep on devoting time to the same problem. They need to solve the problem so that it's solved, and then get on to solve the other problems.
I like it, a World Cup of entrepreneurs. Joe Haslam, you said earlier that it's not politicians that create jobs, it's markets that create jobs, it's businesses that create jobs. But should we really be looking to businesses to be recognising they almost have a social responsibility to help the youth of today, instead of possibly, certainly in places like Southern Europe, concentrating more on permanent employees and not the new recruits?
Okay, well, first of all, let me differentiate between business when I talk about small and medium-sized and large business. Remember that the jobs come from small businesses getting bigger. That's where jobs come from. Large companies tend to look for efficiency, and then that reduces jobs. Politicians need to spend a lot more time with the small and medium-sized enterprises and much less time with big businesses. The other issue about this training and this program about finding 4 jobs is that you can't contrast a country like Finland, which is the best education system in the world, with a country like Spain that has below average. There's very different conditions that prevail. Also, the kind of jobs that people want. I think younger people want a different kind of job than perhaps their parents had. They're interested in issues like sustainability, they're interested in transparency, they want to see open data sets made available, like they want to see jobs based on mobility rather than the kind of things that their parents had. When I talk to politicians, that's a real problem I have. They think of a job very much as a 9-to-5 kind of thing. They don't really think of jobs as things that can be done from home, things that can be done across borders, things that can be done with much more creativity, with people in different languages. I think that's one of the biggest problems. You have to define exactly what a job is. And I'm very hopeful. I think things like singularity, I think like when markets open up, you're going to have smartphones in the hand of 3 and 4 billion people in the world within the next few years. That's going to bring incredible opportunities, and I think Europe has very good historic links with parts of the world where there's growth, and I think that's the kind of thing we need to focus on. I think European politicians need to think that they need young people and they need emerging markets more than young people and emerging markets need them.
You sound almost optimistic. Just briefly, do you hold that actually the markets will sort themselves out and young people will start to see that they can get work if they are more inventive, as you're describing?
Yes, well, you have to be optimistic. I mean, if you're not optimistic, what's the point? But look, I mean, I think, you know, Europe is a democracy and people can be voted out. And I think, you know, change can come very quickly. You speak to people in you know, other parts of the world where change has come on. So I am optimistic. I think biggest of all is that there were once industries that could only be created by governments, whereas now things like the singularity moments will mean that people can go and individuals can go and create industries that once governments were only capable of. And things like healthcare and education, there are fantastic opportunities for the future. That's what I mean about that. You know, the politicians need to understand much more about the young people, because the young people, it's them who will be paying their pensions in years to come, and maybe they mightn't be so generous if the people who have power now aren't generous and helpful to the young people.
That's a warning, definitely, to them. I would like to thank all three of you very much for joining us. Evgenia Bosmy for joining us from Athens, Joe Haslam there in London, and in Madrid, and Albert Tucker in London. Thank you for your thoughts. And thank you for watching. And if you'd like to let us know what you think, you can always tweet at AJ Inside Story. I'm Sue Turton. Bye for now.